UFC 200, the card should be stacked as it is because it is another milestone in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So Brian Oswald of Bleacher Report, he's their MMA editor, put together what he is predicting to be the UFC 200 card. There's a couple of fights that we are expecting, and only 2 have been confirmed by UFC's website. Several sites have reported on the bookings of Travis Brown versus Cain Velasquez, heavyweight fight, and Derek Brunson versus Gegard Mousasi, middleweight fight. Both bouts are listed on MMAfighting.com's UFC 200 hub page, so not UFC.com, but at least those seem to be 2 of the confirmed fights. Now, the biggest storyline heading to this is actually, I would say, 2 big storylines heading into it. One, the Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor rematch, which I think we have more words from Brian Oswald here, which also makes sense for the UFC as is a big fight. Also listed on their hub page, but not yet confirmed by the UFC, is the much-talked-about Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor rematch. MMAfighting.com's Ariel Helwani reported on this Monday's edition of the MMA Hour that the contracts are out there and that the fight will be contested at 170 and not 155 pounds. So there's a whole bunch of debate right now. Should McGregor immediately fight Nate Diaz again and go and fight at 170? The interesting take I heard from this, at least from Max Kellerman's side of things, who's big in the boxing world, he was discussing why it's not a good idea because you should really go back and fight guys that you could beat. He kind of took a Mayweather-esque strategy towards it in the way that stack yourself with 2 or 3 guys that are at a different weight class than you are and work yourself up gradually. Don't try to go headfirst into the octagon and fight.
Especially when Nate Diaz isn't exactly verbal about having a rematch immediately.
Right,
I have not seen any talk from Diaz's camp talking about how he immediately wants to go back into the ring with Conor McGregor.
And I don't think he'd shy away from it, though.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, though. Nate Diaz has a remarkable opportunity to change the tide of his career, like he already has, but then further advance his career in the UFC. Right now, we all know that it's a fact at this point that shit talking basically gets you way farther ahead as far as promotional hype leading up to a fight.
I would agree with
you
that.
can even create a fight that might not necessarily have happened with the appropriate amount of shit talking. Shit talking is also a big part of Conor McGregor's, hype itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm very surprised that Nate Diaz has not done anything, even though he's known as the Diaz brothers both are known as very verbal people in the UFC community. Why have they not come out and talked about how Conor McGregor is afraid, that he doesn't want to fight? I don't understand that. I truly do believe that Nate Diaz has the potential to beat him again, especially with his ground game.
I mean, after what I saw in the first fight between them, I wouldn't bet against Nate Diaz. But if you've been following my coverage of the MMA, if you bet against me, you've won a lot of money.
I bet against you before that. I did.
Yeah, at that point, yeah. But look, I would like to see the rematch because, again, I like, at this point, watching these 2 guys fight each other. I thought that UFC card 196 was fantastic, top to bottom.
It's just not a good idea for Conor McGregor to fight immediately, fight again. It's not a good idea.
I also understand why. Because for him, he's going for broke. You lose to Nate Diaz again, you still have your featherweight title. You can go back down and fight there. But you've taken a major blow promotionally, I would say.
Yeah.
And it's tough because I look at guys that Dana White, I think Frankie Edgar comes to mind when he went through a little bit of an obstacle phase. It took him a long time, 2.5, 3 years, to even be considered for another title fight, and he didn't even get it. And Frankie Edgar's a lovable dude. People like, and usually, I like Frankie Edgar too just because of the New Jersey affiliation, but at the same time, he's the opposite of the super promotable. He doesn't talk a lot of shit. And he just started recently throwing out shots on podcasts and MMA-related radio stations and websites because
he's got to go on JRE, talk a little smack,
absolutely.
And you're good. But look, no, I don't think Dana White would even be pushing for this. I feel like he's already lost Ronda Rousey to a degree. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we
I wouldn't
all
say
know
lost
that
completely, but lost a lot of what was going for Ronda Rousey.
She's not the doorbuster she once was, is what I'm saying.
But she's
Like filling out stadiums, record-breaking.
But
sales.
she is one win away from pretty much being on top of the mountain.
Yeah,
again.
no, I completely understand, but that hype train has kind of died down. And now with the Conor McGregor defeat, you have these two pillars that were essentially propping the UFC up, which is, I mean, it's good. It's an opportunity for other fighters to get out there, but at the same time, this is what was keeping the UFC afloat for what we all thought was going to be for a very long time.
I agree with that. I do.
They entered the ecosphere of normal, like, popular culture.
I thought Francis was in New York, yet you bring up words like ecosphere.
Why?
I don't think ecosphere is a word.
Aluminium.
All right. Is that a philosophical question? So the UFC 200 projected...
Ecosphere is a word, by the way.
Okay, but... Oh, my bad. Now I look like the asshole. UFC 200's projected pay-per-view card, at least according to Brian Oswald of Bleacher Report. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor as the headlining fight. Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit 2. Rafael Dos Anjos versus Eddie Alvarez. Cain Velasquez, Travis Brown. CM Punk back in the octagon versus Mickey Gall. A good card. You know what would make it an even better card? The People's Champion. The possible return of George St. Pierre.
Ooh.
There is rumors, and I know that Dana White's been talking with GSP, or at least his people, and they've been talking back and forth. It's just a matter if he wants to come back, UFC 200 would be the most ideal place for it. He's the People's Champion for a reason.
200 is a sexy number.
I would love to see him get back in the ring, fight current welterweight champ Robbie Lawler. I don't care what even happens in the fight. Just give us a card with McGregor, Diaz, George St. Pierre, Dos Anjos.
You're ridiculous.
It's the 200th UFC fight. We're going to look back on this because do you remember UFC's 1 through 50?
No, I was like barely alive. What
I know. So I'm saying when you look back on them, the difference is just the quality of product from top to bottom. You can get one of the greatest cards we've ever seen in fight history.
A lot of that.
UFC,
a lot of that.
Bellator, not even just boxing.
A lot of that because they need to take the time to develop their fighters to make them superstars. Therefore, having a broader appeal to the masses, making UFC a part of the mainstream culture.
Fair enough.
UFC 1 was looked upon in the fringes of culture as this incredibly violent spectacle that no one should watch. And you look at UFC 200 now, and everyone's talking about it. You have Ronda Rousey, who's a legendary fighter. UFC is a part of mainstream culture now because they've taken the necessary steps and really built their fighters.
Good. So you don't want to see a stacked card?
I think that, I don't know, I don't place the amount of emphasis that you do on the number 200.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying.
Different.
If it's not the right opportunity for them to fight, it's not the right opportunity. I'd rather focus on making sure that these fighters are developed enough to provide a more entertaining fight instead of throwing them out in the field. You could put Conor McGregor against a mountain lion too. That would be really fucking entertaining.
Of course, like I said, Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
And the other one that a lot of people have been discussing is the women's bantamweight fight, Tate versus Holm rematch. I'm going to say less than 1% chance. I don't want to say there's 0% chance, but reasoning for it.
Am I the only one who doesn't appreciate rematches, especially when they're so quick?
I love rematches if it's in the right context. To me, John Jones versus Daniel Cormier is a great rematch because they have a nice, almost seems like a friendly rivalry. I don't believe that those two guys hate each other. I do think that they have a great time playing off of each other. But I think a Tate versus Holly Holm rematch would be exciting, but not, I think, to your point, 2 months after it just happened, 3 months after it just happened. And in terms of why, it doesn't seem like Dana White is going to have Meisha Tate fight anybody but Ronda Rousey, and Ronda Rousey's not ready to fight for UFC 200. Other names that probably won't be fighting. John Jones fights in late April, as you mentioned with Daniel Cormier. Mighty Mouse Demetrius Johnson also fights in late April. And, of course, one of my favorite rising stars in the UFC when it comes to the women's side is Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Shit! That's Tony Hinchcliffe's girlfriend.
I have a crush on her. I really do.
I know everyone
She's
does.
fighting at TUF 23 the night before, so she won't obviously be fighting.
She terrifies my penis. She's terrifyingly sexy, if that makes sense.
I'm gonna make that a GIF. I'm gonna use that for the rest of my life. How do you feel about that? Quote: "She terrifies my penis." End quote. Hassan the Hun.
Joanna, how do you say it?
Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I think that's it. At Hassan the Hun on Twitter. At Jason
And follow me
91.
on Pop Trigger and TYT's Facebook at The Young Turks on Facebook.
No, you don't have to. I mean, you can follow him when he's on here on TYT Sports.
I'm going to do that too.
At TYT Sports over on the Twitter for the main for our channel, at least, facebook.com/TYT Sports. In the comments section below, let us know who you are projecting to be the 5 fights-ish on the card for UFC 200. And even the better question that Hassan threw at you, are we putting too much emphasis on the number 200? Let us know down below. See you next time.